thank you all for joining me here with this fabulous panel. Many big minds together on this very full stage today. We have a session devoted to research communities, ripple effects for regions. I am Cameron Bell, a Director of Civic Engagement at Hellenic American University, a twin campus U.S. institution between New Hampshire and Athens, Greece. In Athens, I lecture on contemporary politics and political risk. I'm really delighted here to try to extract deep insights that can be applied both to Ioannina and regions as we define our own region. So I'd like first for each panelist to introduce your primary institution and its mission, so the audience can have a sense for when we talk about region, how that concept applies to each set of experiences. Please.
Me? Okay. Hello. Thank you very much for the invitation and for joining this very wide panel. My name is Fragkiskos Theofylaktos. I am a consultant for startups for many years, more than 12, mainly in the strategic sector of each startup, how they can make a better product, how they can cooperate with other individuals and companies, and how can they scale up during their journey towards an efficient and successful startup.
Hello, thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Batistatou. I'm the Rector of University of Ioannina. Our university is one of the 23 public universities in Greece and one of the 7 that has also a medical school. We are a large comprehensive university. I'm a rector for the last 2.5 years, and only in the beginning of this year we have a new strategic plan for our university where education and research are very important, but also equally important is the involvement of the local community, the co-creation in what we think is an ecosystem where our university is an anchor institution for the region.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's really a pleasure to be here. My name is Krysztof Bulski. I represent, you can say, the Brussels bubble here, and being involved in a number of initiatives, what I want to say is that one thing that I focus on in my work is opening up bubbles, opening up insider communities to the broader outreach, which is a way to both strengthen the communities and those who are lacking the involvement. And I represent a new think tank from Brussels. It's called the European Policy Innovation Council, for short EPIC. And we see it as Europe's first public policy influencer movement. So a type of organization that blends this typical evidence-based research that is typical for think tanks with the energy of political movements. And it goes beyond traditional think tank work and also very much beyond traditional Brussels bubble work by reaching out to where the debate about the future of Europe should be happening. Events like the Zagori Forum. It is here where we should start talking about the future of Europe, European research, European innovation. So I'm really happy and honored to be part of this panel today.
Hello everyone, I'm Tassos. I usually wear 2 hats. Professionally, I'm working in a global agency remotely from Ioannina in the past 3 years. So I have some experience with working in the international markets, mainly in the sector of marketing technologies and digital transformation. But more importantly for the forum today, my second hat is the Innovation and Digital Economy Hub, which is a non-profit we've launched with a few other people in Ioannina to help grow the local digital ecosystem in terms of companies, startups, and collaborations. Through that, we operate 2 brands. One is Ioannina, the co-working space, which is newly launched, actually launched May last year, so we've been operational for a year. It's a co-working space in the old historic center of Ioannina in Kanigos Street. That used to be the corn exchange, like the old economic area, and what we like to say is that we are bringing the new economies of scale into Ioannina. The second thing we run is TechFuse, which is an annual conference in Ioannina around innovation, technology, arts and culture. And that is a civic engagement platform, we like to call it, around engaging the local initiatives with the world and then allowing the city to have some input from local initiative, global best practices back into Ioannina. So that's me.
Hi everyone, very glad to be part of the first Zagori Forum. It's such a privilege to be here in Ioannina, this vibrant city of innovation. I'm Antonis Papadopoulos. I represent the company, the consulting company Breakeven, and beside the typical consultancy services, we also work very close with universities, municipalities, regions, and we try to support the development of innovation ecosystems that bring in life the regional economic growth that we all foresee for our cities.
Hello, I'm Leonidas Tzonis. I'm a financial economist by training. I started my career from academia as an assistant professor of finance at Durham University, UK. Currently, I serve as president of Hellenic American Union, a well-known, I believe, organization in Greece, created 68 years ago with specific activity in the areas of education and culture, in research as well, since the Center for Applied Research in Linguistics created research output in Greece over the last 20 years or so, creating its own English language certifications. I'm very honored to be with you today. Thank you very much to Jerry, Alexandros, Jerry, and to the entire team. That's it, thank you.
Indeed. Thank you all for being here, for welcoming us to the stage. As you can see, we have not one, but two institutional presidents on the stage and a range of professional experiences with great depth that will inform our discussion now. Because we have academics here, it's right to start with some theory. And the first question, the floor is for Dr. Tzonis to address some theoretical underpinnings of successful ecosystems that we know have led to great entrepreneurship and economic growth.
Thank you, Cameron. So basically, research communities is something extremely powerful. It's something that goes beyond the walls of an academic institution or a research lab and necessarily sends ripples to the entire community or the extended region they are based in. The effects are both profound and more in-depth actually in the future. It would be interesting to just spend a minute or so to think of the most well-known, if you wish, research communities. Silicon Valley, for example, everybody knows that it has been initiated by the work of Stanford University, or the research triangle that has been initiated by the Duke University and the University of North Carolina, and it's currently the home of more than 5,000 innovative corporations. There are other in Europe as well, or if you wish, the Bangalore one in India, the Indian Silicon Valley, where a variety of well-known international corporations transferred or created the R&D centers over there, including Microsoft, etc. So, as an economist, allow me to start a bit from the economy. Innovation brings investments, it brings expansion, it brings people, it brings spin-offs effect to any aspect of the social life of a region. It is not only obviously only about money, it's about social welfare as well, because I mean innovation brings bright minds that participate in every aspect of the local community. I mean the effect is huge actually, simply because the consequences touch every single aspect of a life of a local community. Job creation, for example, not only in the area of scholars, academics, researchers, etc., but obviously all these people that come into an area where a research community exists or is created or whatever, they participate in every aspect of the social life of the city. So they increase the level of education, for example. The need for expansion in any activity, education, health, is created. So this is basically the whole idea about research communities and the effects that can have on a local region.
Since you mentioned cases from the United States, perhaps it's worth recalling a headline just yesterday in the New York Times that referenced 3 Yale professors who have decided not just to leave Yale, but also leave the United States, given fears of fascism. And the recurring headlines about roughly $2.5 billion in federal grant money being cut from Harvard, sparking a trend of budget cutting across American academia. This is a moment of great disruption in higher education in the United States, and vis-a-vis Europe, it raises questions around if there is going to be some sort of movement to Europe or a change in the nature of the competition between the US and Europe in academia and also in technology. So perhaps from a Brussels perspective, Krysztof, you could comment on where you see this going and if there's something that we can do here on the receiving end to benefit from this period of disruption.
Great question, and I hope I will not disappoint anyone by not focusing on how great European research environment and opportunities are, because they are great in many terms, but to be better, we should focus on those things that are not so good in attracting, let's say, scientists from the US. Coming from also a family of academics, I know very well that scientists are very good in communicating among each other. Even if there are language barriers, researchers will always find a way to go to events, communicate, and exchange ideas. But the amount of the lack of understanding in the broader context from stakeholders like regulators, those who are financing research, and also media, is something that has been talked about for a long time but hasn't actually changed. I think that one of the big challenges for research communities that are being built in Europe is to teach researchers and managers of those communities to communicate with the outside world, to communicate with those who potentially could improve financing. And that also involves lobbying in Brussels, where a lot of important decisions are made about financing of European research. I know only a small number of organizations representing the research communities. They mostly come from Western parts of Europe. And for example, my country, Poland, Poland's universities are not represented at all in Brussels, which I think is a big loss. But also media. If you look at why America is so powerful, of course there is the hard power, there is the military power, there is the economic power, but we cannot underestimate the soft power, the power of culture, the power of American brands, but also the power of American science, and that all lies in communication. In communicating also the fields that are researched, but also the findings of research, the innovation, the potential of that innovation. So I think this is something that we have to work on, and we have to discover how to teach to especially young researchers who are building their careers and trying to make impact.
If I can follow up with you, Krysztof, you've just started a think tank, the European Policy Innovation Council, to fill some sort of void. And one challenge for any research organization is to connect the research with people, both decision makers, let's say elites, but also with the general public. So what's your plan to actually move the needle in communities with the research from your institution?
Well, first of all, the Brussels bubble is called bubble for a very simple reason. It rarely communicates with the outside world. It rarely involves the outside world in the debates about policy, about potential changes in policy. If you look at the typical Brussels bubble debate, you will have a lawmaker, a member of the European Parliament, you will have someone from the European Commission in the panel, a representative of industry, and maybe a policy expert from a think tank. And that will be a Brussels-based think tank that prepares its research only with the aim to reach a very small group of stakeholders and also receive feedback from that very small group of stakeholders. What we are trying to do, first of all, our primary goal is to involve those communities that are mostly underrepresented, and that is the younger generations of Europeans, Generation Z, and also rural communities. And those are groups that are becoming more and more connected, especially through the social media channels and through having access to more and more ways to follow, for example, online influencers. And we started actually inviting topic-based influencers from various parts of Europe to those debates we hold. We involve also that kind of groups in our topic research. But one of the things that we also put as a very high priority is to participate in debates like this today. We travel around Europe. We've been taking part in events in Poland. Now we are here. We're also participating in events in Portugal, for example, or Spain. And what all those, let's call this epic on tour, participation in events have in common, none of them takes place in capitals. We don't go to Warsaw, we don't go to Athens, and when in Portugal, we don't go to Lisbon. In Portugal, we go to the Algarve that has a very growing IT and tech community of expats who come there to live there and grow their business there. And now we have this beautiful event here in the Zagori region, which shows that there is a potential of innovation, of influence, of building influence on how Europe will develop, how Europe will grow and evolve. That is absolutely not considered in Brussels. Mm-hmm. And it's not heard in Brussels. So we want to be this ear coming here, listening. And one thing I can tell you for sure, I will come back to Brussels and I will refer to what I learned here and refer to it as an example of, hey, there is this initiative, there is this community in Ioannina, and they have specific insights and thoughts. Because, if I may, sorry for taking so long to answer, but Brussels is all about lobbying. There are 25,000 lobbyists registered in the European Transparency Register. And these are people influencing the future of the European law. And they all have one thing in common. When they go to a meeting with a politician, they say that what they are trying to achieve, the change in the law they are trying to influence, is important for the European citizens. So they are referring to everyone sitting here in this forum today they're referring to the people that are actually not aware of the process. So, yeah.
And Dr. Batistatou, how do you ensure that the research that takes place at the University of Ioannina leaves Ioannina? What constraints do you face, and how have you overcome those constraints?
Yeah, we are in a peripheral region, so probably you haven't heard of University of Ioannina before. Okay, that's fair.
Until today.
It's fair. But we're a university with 30,000 students, and we're, as I said before, a university that is very important for the region. It's a bad thing that we're away from the capitals, but the good thing is that we're in very close community with all the communities around here. It is an institution that is very well respected. The way we have overcome this program is any one of us, like you said, any one of us is an ambassador of our universities. One of our first discussions with young people, like Tassos, who have discussed a lot, not Tassos, but also his people that are around him and people like Tassos and people around them. And what we have discussed is that many times the universities were considered like drawn back from the community. It was not very scientific to be hearing the community. But now things have changed. We have many, many young people that they have the impact, the power to change the communities around them because they are the new people with the new jobs and the new ideas. We empower them, but also we are empowered by being part of a university alliance. I think what is a good thing that happened in Brussels, and they have decided to fund university alliance, European university alliances. So we, as University of Ioannina, are a part of an alliance with 7 more universities that are like us because we have to be sustainable as well. So if there are some ad hoc or like incidental coalitions, they're not going to work. We are going to work because we are all regional universities that are important for the region. France, Clermont-Auvergne is our leading university, and other universities around Europe are like that. So what do we have? We're a community of 8 universities that act as one. And this is very important for our strategy for internationalization. But also, it is the generation we are aiming at. Our students, having passed from these campuses, or as many as they want, then they become the real European citizens. Because now, you have said it very well, European Union is not a union. Every country is alone there. And they have some alliances that may change over time. If we have the mind of young people being European citizens, then it's going to be the real European Union. And this happens only through universities. And universities, through research, serve also to change. So I think what you said is very nice. It has to work both ways, up, bottom, but also bottom up. And we have to communicate. And it's nice that finally Brussels decided to hear. And I'm very happy that you're hearing us. And it's very important because these are the people, actually. This is what the EU bubble is working for.
I have to add, though, I'm not representing the entire
No.
Okay. So I would say that
I have to be a little sharp.
No one
I'm
is.
sorry, I'm not. Sorry, but that is the way. Brussels has to hear the universities also, but increased funding for research is also important. Okay, we say about, of course, it has to be innovation, but it has to be, the university should be autonomous. It should be simpler ways of funding, more funding for research. Otherwise, it's okay, everything we say is very nice, but European Union, so understand, if you want to fund European alliances research, that's okay, many in one, that is okay, but more funding for research should be given. And then I think there are so many with a brain drain, at least from Greece, there are so many Greek people that would like to come here from abroad, and they just need a little push. If they get this little push, like a research grant or a place in a university, I've seen people after 10 years abroad in Europe and USA coming back to this university and the university hospital and being very happy. So we just need a little push now, and we are ready. All universities are ready, I think.
Well, on stage here we have Francisco and Antonis, who have often been giving startups that push. And I wanted to ask both of you if you could talk about your experience using universities, the research from universities, to both inspire founders and carry them through to success.
Okay, perfect.
Francisco first.
So, having been a member of the mentors of Thea Incubator, which is the incubator from the Athens Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Athens, which was the first the first incubator operated by a Chamber of Commerce in Europe. We have been cooperating with many universities, and of course, the difficult thing was to understand their language, because, for example, I had a company from Demokritos in nanotechnology. They were perfect when pitching the idea in the terms that they could understand, but we couldn't understand anything, because they were saying about how wonderful was that, but they couldn't put it, let's say, in simple words, first of all, and secondly, they couldn't tell us about the product market fit, also the pricing, or the targeted audience. So we had a lot to do with them, and they managed to receive funding from VC Fund in Greece for twice. So, and now it's a very successful startup. And of course, we have seen all these years other successful spin-offs or startups. Spin-offs are mainly the startups that have started from a university, and of course the university have some royalties or a stakeholder agreement with them. But in any case, I think that we see that we have very good results, and in my opinion, I believe that spin-offs are the best example when we see something starting from the labs, having an IP patent underneath, so it has proven, how can I say, innovative approach, and on the other hand, this team has the ability to commercialize the product and also go to the market. So for me, Greece has shown already that we have a very good spin-off companies, and also we have a very good results. So I believe that we have a lot of things to do, but on the other hand, we have seen, for example, 2017 was a spin-off from Athena in Athens. Innoetics was acquired by Samsung, and it was back 10 years ago before. It was something very huge for our terms and for the Greek ecosystem that was evolving at that time. So I believe that the universities in Greece are doing a very great job. And on the other hand, we can say that we have a very good personnel, and I think that the Zagori Forum, on the one hand, and other initiatives like that, like this, they could bring up all the good stuff that we already have. And on the other hand, our job is to help the spin-offs in order to be more competitive, and also try to find the correct, let's say, mixture in order to proceed in success and also to accelerate their operations.
Doris?
So just to build on what Fragkiskos and also the Rector said, when we talk about universities, let's focus now on the regional universities, not the big ones like the National Technical University or the University of Athens. So not all universities are the same, the regional ones. So we have a very good example like the Ioannina one that has created this ecosystem around it. And at the same time, we are experiencing this new thing that it's the first time after so many years of having universities and university research in Greece that the professors and the labs in the universities are allowed to do this step, the entrepreneurial step with the spin-offs. So we experienced for the first time in Greece that the university has a small stake on the spin-off, so actually owns part of all the work that has been done within the university. And the big, I think, gamble here, if I may say that, is that we need to turn the whole research approach into a more commercial approach. So we don't need research for the research, but we need the research that will reply to very specific problems that are set by the industry, and then the industry comes back, with a dual cooperation with the universities, and then you can find the money to do the extra things. Then you can create this new entrepreneurial spirit to the professors, to the researchers, because as Fragkiskos said, there are researchers. They don't know how to pitch the ideas. They don't know how to create this business plan. And there are tools now. We can find financial tools that we can build these incubators, this new educational approach to the university staff to do that jump. So it is very important that we experiencing this time, because everything changes. You said this before. US are turning shifts. towards where they're going. We have Asia being growing very, very fast. So it's a good time.
Tassos, you have a PhD in one of the most commercial sciences right now, artificial intelligence, and you're managing this hub here in Ioannina, which is in and of itself very interesting, why you chose this location to do that. Could you give us a sense for some success stories from Ioannina that you've seen and what the secret ingredients were?
Certainly. So let me set the stage clear. When I was doing my PhD in AI was not as sexy as it is today. We were still in rooms without windows, basically, trying to do stuff.
You didn't have your age.
Yes, well, that's my genes. But so Ioannina as an ecosystem has evolved over the years. Certainly, having a university here has played a massive role in producing young talent. But that young talent was moving away from Ioannina up until a few companies from abroad in Germany launched their hubs here and started creating jobs in the sector, basically. And along that path, a few other companies in Ioannina, through the recession, they have changed their business model into products, digital products, and they managed to get funding from private equity firms and venture capitals, and they started exploring international markets. And at the same time, researchers from the university have been maturing into what you have been saying, essentially, more productized or market-oriented research, research that has results that can be commercially used. And they have been launching some spin-offs from the university. So more or less that's what the ecosystem in Ioannina is at the moment. What I think bears as a competitive advantage over other ecosystems, regional ecosystems, right? I'm setting aside Athens and Thessaloniki for being a very different case study. But what is advantageous for the Ioannina ecosystem is that there are companies right now that can take junior people who are leaving the university and can mature them into senior professionals. And this has been happening for a while, which means that there's critical mass of senior people at Ioannina at the moment, and that's enough to attract other investments into that or fuel initiatives and startup ideas with people who are quite senior and they are much more ready to scale. One of the biggest problems I think we see in Greece when we are talking about ideas and scaling ideas is the maturity of the people who are part of those teams. And that's one, right? You can't really expect, international research shows that the average age for successful founders is 42 years old. And that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, right? When you've been around the block, you know the problems of some domains, you've worked in industries, you know the ins and outs, you know people, which is really important if you want to scale a company, right? Mm-hmm. So essentially what happens is we may have some initial investment and movement in startups with a lot of young blood, but we need to invest also in those older, more mature type of professionals and teams that can scale and they have the abilities, the capabilities to actually approach international markets. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the key ingredient that sort of like sets Ioannina aside from other cities. So success stories, Thanasis is talking later in another panel with Natek. I think Natek is a local company that is the more successful one. But also we have a few other examples. PD Neurotechnology, Mr. Moskos was here before. That's essentially a company it's been born out of the University of Ioannina, research results out of the university. And Terracom, which is a very interesting idea, well, not an idea, an interesting concept in the sense that they used to be professional services company. Recession hit them hard, so they turned one of their idea into a product, and they start launching products, and they start growing that product. They are now in 80 countries, and they have a very, very successful team, really good numbers as well. EBITDA is amazing. And I usually use them as an example because there are a few other professional services companies, agencies in Ioannina, and I'm trying to show them the difference of what added value is being created when you're moving from just selling your time for a specific rate to selling a product that can scale on its own. So I'll wrap this up around here. I think those are the two competitive advantages of Ioannina as an ecosystem over other areas.
Excellent. Thank you for that regional perspective. Dr. Tzonis, you think of regions in terms of a larger swath of the globe because your institution is binational, both Greek and American. So how important is this effort to internationalize Greek institutions, and how have you been going about that?
It is extremely important. I doubt it's feasible sometimes. It's extremely difficult. I mean, our own institution was lucky enough to be binational at the moment it was created. So, I mean, there was no reason actually for extra effort because the way the institution, as you mentioned very correctly, and I believe you refer to Hellenic American University now, has been created as an American university, fully accredited by the American Higher Education Commission and the relevant accrediting body that actually came to Greece. I believe that the opposite direction is extremely difficult for a variety of reasons that there is no specific reason to analyze them now, everybody is aware of. So,
well, this has been one of the hallmark mandates from this current government. And Rector, you have some experience in this. As a product of Columbia University, how could you overlook Columbia here in Ioannina? What are you up to in terms of internationalization and extroversion?
Yeah, as I said, we are part of a European University Alliance, but also we had this opportunity, that's why I say funding is important. Recently from the government, we had a specific funding for internalization of our universities. So all universities applied common masters, dual or double masters, and this was very nice with a very nice procedure. So everybody started thinking about this dual or double, and it's very important not only for people from Greece going abroad, but people from abroad coming here. So actually next week we're going to have the first Americans coming. We have a common program called One Health. We are developing it as a dual master with University of George Mason in Florida, and this is very important. We always start low, we start small, like with a common study abroad 3-week program. And this is very important for exchanges. Over this, we build the bigger one, which is the common master. Also, and this is very important, next week we're going to have the first students, also the Dr. Papaioannou, who is in the government in the Ministry of Education, is going to come. And it is very important for us, we build it from the scratch, and this is important. The other thing is we started through research, we collaborate. Columbia, I am a Columbia alumnus, so I'm very close, my heart is close to Columbia. They have these Columbia Global Centers, and one of them is in Athens. So they develop these research programs. Again, funding is important. We are part of one of them regarding the refugees. Here in Ioannina, I don't know if you know, we have 3 refugee camps that are within the city blocks, within the city areas, and one of them is for children. So now we are starting this new research project, thinking about the psychic structure and what these people are doing, young people are doing, and how we can first of all measure it, and second, intervene on that. And Greek legislation is very good in that. We have barriers, of course, and everything is legal, but it's a little bit easier to intervene. I've seen that also with our American students coming here. There's a lot of things that we had to overcome, or a lot of paperwork and all this. So these are important steps. I think our approach is start small, with a research grant or a small study abroad 3-week program, and build on that a bigger, around it, something bigger.
One of the features of an American-style education is the interdisciplinary component. And you're well known for something called the medical humanities, which some people might say, well, how do you do both? There's hard science and then there's the humanities. How do you bridge those two, and what is the importance of that, that structure?
AI humanities are also needed.
Indeed.
I think AI humanities should be the next step,
yeah.
Because, as you know, we are overdeveloped in certain areas, like medicine or technical issues, but we're underdeveloped as human beings. we become slowly machines. So that's where humanities come in. And although I know in USA and also other parts of the world, humanities are supposed to be less and less important. In fact, they are more and more important. So we keep our human nature within anything we do. We had the luck, are lucky to have a comprehensive university, so we also have humanities and arts in our university besides hard science, let's say. So we are making this program within the medical school. I was the one who brought it a few years ago when I was just a professor in the medical school. And we know that the students want it because they're not, doctors have also needs. They're not machines to treat you and make you well. And I also think maybe we should start something like AI humanities. And it is very important also.
Thank you. The startup space generally is perceived to be quite positive. Everyone likes to talk about entrepreneurship and startups, and perhaps we can pause and think about some of the discontents in this field. I know that, Krysztof, you had some thoughts about challenges that emanate from very successful startup communities. I am a product of Silicon Valley, and I have seen the incredible cost of living crisis, the homelessness, the wealth gap in that neck of the woods. What can we learn from these cases where entrepreneurship is in its extreme form?
Before I answer that, one addition to building the outreach and communication of research communities to make them more attractive and also more competitive globally, not only Europe-wide. The career of every researcher is based on publications and citations. And if you want to see if this researcher is worth including in a project, you will check their index. But often, probably what happens when you have you are working on a publication and you have to choose between some unknown researcher from a small regional university and someone who is writing on the similar topic, and maybe even the publication is on a later date, but from a known American university, you will quote that American university. So this shows that small academic institutions, smaller ones, have a natural disadvantage in the old school way of measuring impact of research. And I think there is a big opportunity in this connection between research, startups, and also outreach, community outreach, and impact of those research communities in figuring out new ways of measuring and showing the power and impact of research. Applied science in social sciences, in chemistry, medicine, biology is probably easier to measure and show the impact, but I'm sure humanities also would have a way to do that, because what we really need is to find a common ground to communicate, and for business, for politicians, publications and number of citations, this is not a language they understand. But the language of real impact, let's say this research team has lowered the cost of some energy processes by 30%. That's real. That's real measurable impact, and that's something that can really show how competitive we are. And I think this is something that would be good to work on. I don't have a answer how to do it well yet, but this is definitely something that, and I forgot the question by now.
It's simply to reflect on some of the negative outcomes when startups are successful, whether it's overdevelopment or in the field of AI, if indeed the humanities have been lost.
So it all comes down to the humans that are behind it. I can give you an example from the city I live in. It's Lisbon. So I have a background of being Polish, growing up in the city that speaks my language, that represents my own culture. Now I live in a city that is maybe not one of those cities that are suffering most from over-tourism, but over expatism for sure. There are way too many expats, according to the locals, living in Lisbon right now. And the reason for the negative mindset among the locals, it is of course the influx of housing prices, and that is a real crisis that the local government is trying to deal with. But it's also the fact that the expats coming to work for some really cool companies, and some are coming to build companies there in Lisbon because it's a very good place to be. Lisbon and also the Algarve, they don't integrate with the native local community. They don't learn the language. They don't. They are not part of the local community. They sort of form a community within a community, and it's not contributing to what is important for the Portuguese people.
In Athens, Francisco or Donis, are you hearing similar complaints from some of the founders that you work with?
Or in which way?
In terms of the lifestyle, the ecosystem,
okay.
And how the conditions are for the actual production of new companies.
Okay, we have seen that we had a tremendous upgrade in the creation of the startups. We know that we have not only in the main cities, Athens and Thessaloniki, but all over Greece. We know that the startups should be around 3,000 at this moment. Only Elevate Greece has registered already 1,000 of them. And we know that we have a significant increase, not only in the creation of the startups, but also on the valuation of the startups. Just recently, Endeavor, which is an institution in Greece, has told us that the estimation of the valuation of the Greek startup ecosystem is 12 billion euros. 3 years ago, it was 8 billion euros. So we see that we are now in the trend of moving up. And also we, according to the foundation report, a report that is published each year, they have told us that we have seen €500 million invested in Greek startups, having an increase of 20% according to the previous year. So we know and we see that the startup ecosystem is growing bigger and bigger. And of course we see a lot of exits, and also we see how they can attract talent from abroad, because we know that not only from the drain that we had in the last 10 years, we know that 2/3 of the people that have left Greece during the financial crisis have returned back. So this is, for me, it's very critical for the ecosystem, not only for the startup, but for the entrepreneurial ecosystem, because they also bring very good knowledge from abroad, and also they can we can learn from the best practices from abroad. So I think that this blending is going to move us forward in any case. In terms of how is the quality of living in Athens, for example, where I live also, I know it is difficult. We have also the housing problem, as mentioned before. We know that the facilitation of several things is not so simple, but in any case, I think that it's going to be something that is going to be normalized in the next years.
Adonis, do you advise people to come to Athens to start their business?
We experience the over-tourism, especially in Athens. So that means that the rents are very high, especially for a startup. That means that we need to find ways to bring them in the region, which is, I think, a great opportunity. And at the same time, we experience the lack of hands. So, it's a very common thing saying that we don't have the experienced professionals to fill the gaps of company. Imagine that in the startup way. So, at the same time, it's a booming thing, but has its own drawbacks.
Any final comments?
Can I add something?
Indeed.
Because I was very impressed by the Rector's statement. So, it's very important that we see ways that the university can speak directly with the local ecosystem, and I don't just refer to the startups. So it's very important that the university speaks with the traditional economic activity of the city, And at the same time, it's very important that we see that all research labs talk to each other. I'm very sure that within your university, few labs knows what they're doing to each other.
Yes.
And having all this interdisciplinary structure as a university, it's very important also to go to the AI humanity approach, that the humanitarian labs talk to the technology labs, and then the medicine labs talk with the physics. And if we break these silos, then I think the outcomes would be amazing.
This happens with osmosis. That means people meet each other, as it was said before. If you meet, because in the beginning we're strangers, but then we meet and we start discussing, and when we understand what are the common goals. And the important is our differences. But when we become a company, then our differences are important, and then we can each give. This is part of our strategic plan of the last 2.5 years, and it's working, but it needs some time because you have to invest on that.
If
Let me add up to that. I just want to isolate a few phrases. You talked about a bubble. We have search communities. You talked about silos. Rector, you talked about coming together. Essentially, what this ends up being is communities. And if we build the communities, that's where the innovation happens, because we should not forget that innovation happens at the intersection of different domains, different strategies, different business ideas, or different technology implementations. And I think that is key in developing the region further, to actually understand how these communities can interoperate, and also create the mechanism to bring those communities closer. This is a key aspect that we have been working for a while, but we need everybody to keep adding to that to make sure that we get to the next level.
Excellent. Let's end there. Please join me in thanking our distinguished panelists.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.